All right, let's watch CBS News go from excited to devastated on election night. Enjoy.
2024. Now reporting, Norah O'Donnell.
Good evening and welcome to CBS News Election Night headquarters in New York. It is 7 p.m. in the East, 4 p.m. in the West. And let's take a look at democracy in action. Voting is still underway in much of the country. And while today is Election Day, people have been voting in record numbers for weeks. In fact, more than 85 million people voted early, and all reports today are that turnout is strong, and we could see a record surpassing the more than 160 million who voted in the last presidential election. We are going to share results with you as soon as we get them. And now the polls have closed in 6 states, so let's take a look. In Kentucky, CBS News projects Donald Trump wins the bluegrass state, where voters have picked a Republican for the last 6 elections. In Vermont, CBS News projects Vice President Harris wins the South.
So there it starts. Let's see throughout the night. You can see she sounds pretty excited there. We'll see how the tone changes as it gets further and further into the night and becomes more obvious Trump is going to win.
Of northern Georgia as well.
Major Garrett, thank you. I want to turn to Ed O'Keefe, our senior White House correspondent. I understand you have some new reporting.
Well, part of why things remain so tight there in Georgia is if you look at those counties around Atlanta, and maybe Major can zoom in on some of them, what the Harris campaign is seeing is real encouragement there. That in fact, she's running ahead of President Biden in some of those ex-urban counties around Atlanta, higher totals than what the president got 4 years ago. That is how she wins a state like Georgia tonight. Can you run up the numbers in the suburbs? Can you get young college voters?
No.
Voters across the country to turn out? Can you lean on the black and Latino voters you need? In Georgia already, we're seeing good indications that the reason she's keeping it even is because Democratic advantages there around Atlanta, the biggest city in the South, may be improving.
It's so funny watching these liberal networks. I don't exactly know at this point. Like, I don't know how they're trying to spin Georgia. I think Georgia was pretty obvious from the moment the votes started to come in that Kamala was not doing very well.
And we saw some of the Puerto Rican voters who, one woman was on the fence, but after that comment from the comedian, she said, nope, I'm now leaving Trump. But I said, but Trump wasn't the one who...
That Puerto Rican comment, by the way, meant almost nothing, it turns out. I thought it might matter a little bit. There's lots of Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania, but didn't matter at all. These pundits, though, really tried to hype that up.
Said it. Mm-hmm. They said it didn't matter. He didn't stop it. He didn't stop it. And they took great offense at that. And they think he took too long to even apologize for it and even own up to it.
But we had Senator Marco Rubio on Face the Nation Sunday just flat out dismissing that he's handling outreach to the Hispanic population for the Trump campaign and saying, oh, no, this, he's not going to be in the cabinet, dismissing it altogether. But what's interesting with...
That doesn't seem to be the case, though, when you talk to the people.
Well, the Harris campaign seems to think in the moment that it's breaking in their favor.
Exactly.
It's insulting. No one is saying it is not.
Exactly.
He even said that, and he was defending Donald Trump.
Now we'll go a little bit ahead to when they started to realize the news coming in was pretty negative. Let's take a look.
Perhaps one of the most powerful Democrats. That's her phrase, based on a source close to her, watching the returns.
But Bob, it's interesting. They say she must win, but do they think she can win? There's such a big difference there. You expect people to be optimistic at this point, but it's
come down to the turnout, Gail, in cities and labor. Cities, labor, and they got to eat into the Republican vote in the suburbs. They're still optimistic, from Pelosi to others, that she can do it, but they see a narrowing path, but a still viable path. But there's a lot of Democrats, to be clear, on edge right now.
Watching this election tonight to see who they will be dealing with when they're looking at the largest land war in Europe underway, when they're looking at the expansion of that, they're looking at a Mideast on fire, they're looking at an aggressive China. And we are going to be digesting this as a planet when we wake up tomorrow morning to figure out what's next.
Here's some liberal meltdown.
Third of the world has had a female leader. This country has not. And tonight, this is also a test of whether a woman could be a commander-in-chief of this country, elected in a very short runway of an election against a man who has presented himself, despite what his national security advisors say, as about strength, as about he puts fear in other people. Therefore, you won't see that realignment or that threat around the world.
Democrats, I'm talking about people I really trust as sources on the Democratic side, are growing alarmed, frankly. Are growing alarmed, frankly, as they look at these numbers.
Let's listen now to the Harris campaign co-chair, Cedric Richmond. He's about to address the crowd at Howard.
So why wasn't this Kamala Harris that went out and delivered this message when it looked like at this point she was mathematically not going to win? I believe some networks had already actually called it, like the decision desk at News Nation. I believe they'd already called it for Trump at this point, but even still, Kamala should have been the person delivering this message, in my opinion, for sure.
University.
HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris.
What? Go Harris?
Thank you all.
Democrat working on the Harris campaign or at the White House or anywhere else disputing what we're seeing tonight. Nobody has stopped this momentum that is clearly going. There's no question that this is happening. Democrats up and down the ballot understand that what is unfolding is legit. We have not heard from the Harris campaign whether she has made any call to the former president, the president-elect, presume, possibly soon.
Truly remarkable, what looks like a sweeping victory for Donald Trump. And certainly he will claim the man.
See, compare that to her tone at the beginning of the video. Do you remember that? She was chipper, happy, smiling. Donald Trump is going to win.
Mandate from the results tonight. We could have some news shortly about whether Donald Trump has officially reached the threshold to be named the next president-elect. Faced a number of challenges in this contest. It was an election unlike any of us have ever covered.
A life unlike any we've ever covered. This man, Donald John Trump, born in Jamaica, winning the presidency, as CBS News projects.
That was a weird edit. I think they were going to say Jamaica Queens, I think. I'm sure they were.
This will usher in potentially an unprecedented era in American history, to have someone who believes firmly that he has total presidential power in terms of official acts.
Listen to their tone. Listen how sad they are.
Based on the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year, does not have to serve in prison despite being convicted in a criminal trial, and despite pressuring his own vice president to overturn an election, has been warmly embraced by the party, the Republican Party once again, and won the presidency based on our CBS News projection. And he is willing and able and ready and excited, I'm told by sources close to him, and including by him himself, to return to the White House and wield power on immigration, foreign policy, the economy.
So I don't know about you. It'll never get old to me watching these networks say that Donald Trump is going to be the next president and just hearing the tone in their voice. You almost couldn't say it in a more depressed way. I mean, you could if you were not on television. They'd probably be slinging a bunch of F-bombs, but they're just up there reading, Donald Trump is going to win. He is a convicted felon. It's hilarious, especially when you compare it to how they sounded just before the election, trying to basically paint Kamala Harris in as rosy as a picture as they could. But anyway, with that said, I'll finish the video here. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have a great day.